juror spontaneously brings that up. And spontaneously does not mean you ask them a question designed to elicit the answer and then claim it was spontaneous. State, be prepared to start fairly quickly since I have almost nothing to say to these jurors this morning. I'm not going to be asking, I'm going to ask them 2 questions about publicity and that's it.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thanks. Yes, sir.
You are denying the access to the record.
I cannot.
You are denying the access to the record.
I am not denying you access to the record. I'm denying you going on and on and on about a court's ruling that has been discussed at length. You've made your record. If you have anything else to say, you can proffer it after we're done with jury selection. And I remind the attorneys to turn their mics on when they're addressing the court.
May I address the court?
Yes, sir.
We are prepared to present witnesses this afternoon based upon the schedule. Are we expected to do that, or do we know?
If we have time, we will.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
I don't know how long this is going to take, so based on that, we'll adjust as we go along.
We'll have them ready just in case.
And if you all can stipulate to subjects for opening, I'm fine with that.
Understood. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thanks.
I do have one more request, Your Honor. I'm sorry. I'd like to be able to speak to the jurors without the use of a mask during voir dire and opening statements. I don't know if it's in the court's discretion to be able to do that or not, but I'm asking for permission to do that, so long as I stay 6 feet away from anyone else in the courtroom at the time.
Okay, I'll let the attorneys take their masks off for general voir dire, but you cannot get close to those jurors. You need to stay away from them, and I'm doing this for the record because we're back in courtroom 23, and there's been so much difficulty with jurors hearing us. The court's had to repeatedly, I've had to remove my mask almost every single time to get them to hear me. So based on that, I'll go ahead and grant the exception to remove the mask.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Are they on their way up? Are they on? Yeah, let's start getting them up here. Are we still missing 2? One? We're missing 1? Okay.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
In light of the email sent by your JA regarding the slides of Dr. Wu, the specific slides, I printed out those slides. I hand wrote the number of the slide that corresponds.
Okay.
I meant to print it out with page numbers. I didn't. I hand wrote it. Those correspond in order of the slides mentioned in my motion.
Great.
May I approach?
Yes, sir. And I assume defense has a copy. Okay, we've begun lining up jurors. Juror 326 in seat 29 has failed to appear. Phone calls have been made. Her phone is turned off. Well, I don't know if it's turned off. It's going directly to voicemail. I'm going to proceed without her. I'll handle her failure to appear separately. All right, I'm bringing in the juror in seat 25, 118. She has some child care issues she needs to discuss with us.
Go ahead and have a seat here.
Good morning, ma'am. How are you?
Good morning.
Can you hear me with this mask on?
Barely.
All right, is that better?
Yes.
Okay. When you were here last, you had told us your parents could watch your children, is that correct?
My husband's parents. Or
Your
like-
parent- no.
Yes. Yeah.
Your husband, I just wrote down parents.
No, it's okay.
Your husband's parents, and I've been informed that there's a problem with that.
Yes. My father-in-law has had a bad reaction to the chemotherapy, so he created blisters all over his body. So, sorry, my mother-in-law is taking care of him right now. So
have-
she can't take care of my kids in the morning, and my husband goes to work at 4 in the morning. So between 4 and 8 now, I wouldn't have anybody to leave my kids with.
Okay. So you lost your child care, basically?
Yeah, I mean, I can drop them off, but between 4 and 8, I don't have anybody to watch them.
Okay. State, you wish to inquire?
No, Your Honor.
Defense, you wish to inquire? Yes, ma'am. State.
Neither do we, Your Honor.
All right, ma'am, please don't discuss anything with the other jurors. You're free to go.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we also have a note. Juror 326 has responded to the phone calls, indicating to the jury room that she's in the middle of having a migraine and will not be able to report. State.
She can't be here. I apologize, Your Honor. If she can't be here, we would move for cause.
Defense.
I don't know what the alternative solution is, but I
General
don't,
voir dire, she's either here or she isn't.
I
Yeah.
certainly agree with that, but I don't wish to excuse her, but I don't know that there's any other option.
Yeah, I can't make her come in if she's claiming a migraine. Let me just check my notes and make sure she warned us about the migraine thing. I don't have any notes about migraines, but I also don't have any notes that, would indicate that this juror was reluctant. She actually seemed positive about jury service, so I'm going to strike her for cause based on her illness today.
And may I just note for the record, my notes reflect that juror in seat 29, 326 was a Hispanic female, and the juror we just struck in seat 25, 118 was a Hispanic female. The majority of the panel is white. Calculation, 40 of 60 folks on this panel are white.
State any response to that you want to put on the record?
My notes reflect, without any further evidence, that both of the jurors that have been excused this morning for cause were Hispanic females.
Okay.
We're both Hispanic. I have no comment on anything else because I don't know that there's evidence for that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so at this point, we have all the jurors. We just need to line them up and get them in here. Thanks. Everyone remains seated when the jury's coming in and out. We seem to have lost a juror somewhere between the jury room and up here. We'll be with you in just a minute, folks. He checked in. So we're actually missing 3 of them? No, we're just missing 1. Yeah. Anything from the jury room? All right, we're going to start without the juror in seat number 6. He's been ordered to the courthouse. We'll deal with him when he gets here. All right, folks, if you'll stand, raise your right hand, face the clerk, you're going to be re-sworn.
Do each of you solemnly swear that you will answer truthfully all questions asked of you as prospective jurors, so help you God?
Have a seat, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to what will hopefully be the last day that you have to wear those masks. All right. We are going to have some questions for you today. They will all be as a group. I have very few questions for you. This will mostly be conducted by the attorneys this morning. The same rules apply as always. Please speak up. I have given the attorneys permission to remove their masks while they're questioning you so that they can be heard clearly. You will be using microphones this morning. The attorneys will maintain a 6-foot distance from all of you, but you will be using the microphones again to answer the questions so that we can hear you. By show of paddles, is there anyone on the panel who has seen or heard anything about this case, had anyone talk to you about it, or anyone try to talk to you about it, or read anything? If you have, please put your paddles up. Court sees no. Juror in seat number 60. Hold on one second, ma'am. Without telling me what you heard. Okay.
Without telling you what I heard?
Don't tell me the contents of it. Just tell me, did you hear, see, or read something about this?
Not lately, but when it first started, I did hear.
Oh, no. I meant since you were here
Since
last in the
Friday, no.
court. Okay, thank you. All right, is there any juror who's had a change in circumstances from the last time you spoke to us that you need to bring to the court's attention? All right. Juror in seat number 4. What's your change, sir?
New development at work came up, being assigned to go to Jacksonville for a special assignment on November 8th. I don't know how this is going to work out with the timeline.
What happens if you don't go to the assignment?
I have to go and support the hotel there.
No, my question was, what happens if you don't go?
Not sure what's going to happen. They probably have to find someone else.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else in the front row? Juror in seat number 5.
Had a job change, but I should be good.
Okay, thank you.
I just won't be paid, that's all.
So, is that, no, pass it back. If you're not paid, can you, you're
Yes,
saying you won't be
I'll
paid?
be fine financially.
All right, thank you. On this row, juror in seat 13.
Last Thursday, I had COVID symptoms. I went and got tested. It was negative. They said I had an upper respiratory infection, give me a round of antibiotics. I still don't feel well.
Okay, how are you feeling? How are you feeling today?
A little dizzy, honestly.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Who else? Next row. Third row. Third row is 31 through 45. Last row, 46 through 60. Juror in seat 53. Yes, ma'am.
I no longer have my job.
You what?
No longer have my job.
Oh, when did that, sorry to hear that. When did that happen?
Friday was my last day.
Okay. Has that changed your current financial situation?
I could pay for a few months. I just have to look for a job well.
Okay. Can you begin a preliminary job search online?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Anyone else in that row? I saw some other paddles up. Juror in seat 58.
Hey, good morning. It's not necessarily a change. It's something I really didn't consider, I think, fully on Friday. My wife and I have two kids, a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old. Our 6-year-old's autistic, and we can, I think, get through the day-to-day with that. The part I didn't consider, though, is that he withholds bowel movements, and that's something that requires a liquid suppository 1 to 2 times a week. It's not something that my wife can apply on her own. It takes both of us. He fights this. And even though, we have her mom lined up to come down and support as much as possible, she's not going to be able to help with that.
Okay, thank you, sir. Juror in seat 59.
Yes, just like 58, I didn't consider it. I'm on FMLA at my job, so I do have episodes where I might miss a day or so of work, but it's controlled with medication. I just wanted you to be aware of that.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Juror in seat number 60. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. As of Friday, I contacted my job and they said I would get paid, but they emailed me back and said they will only pay me for 10 days. So with that being said, and you said maybe 3 weeks, that will put a financial strain on me.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Anybody I missed? All right, folks, I don't have any other questions for you. I'm going to turn this over to the attorneys. Mr. Williams, you may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning. Congratulations. Great. As I told you, some of you 2 weeks ago, some of you last week, my name is Ryan Williams, and I'm one of the 2 prosecutors that's assigned to prosecute this case. A few preliminary conversations or statements maybe. By now, you've no doubt seen the computer sitting in front of both myself and Mr. Buxman. If you're selected as a juror in this case, you will no doubt see it sitting in front of us for the remainder of this time. I assure you that we are not doing our early shopping for Christmas or anything else. It's just that which you should do according to local news stories. Most of you are nodding your heads and know what I'm talking about. But this is how we communicate with our office to make sure that witnesses are ready and that things go as smoothly and quickly for all of you as possible. I assure you that between the 2 of us, we are paying attention, we know what's going on, and please don't hold that against us. The second thing is, if I make any other lame attempts at humor during this process, please do not think that I don't take this situation very seriously. I can see the faces of every one of you this morning because of those masks, and I know that you all take this very seriously. It is a very serious situation. However, and I'll add to that after this morning, it is unlikely that you'll see me smile again for the next 2 to 3 weeks. However, it has been my experience, having done this for a little while now, that when people are comfortable and laughing even, they're much more likely to tell us how they really feel about certain topics, as opposed to being buttoned up and thinking you know what the right socially appropriate answer is in front of your 59 new closest friends. So this is my way of imploring you not to give us that answer. Just like it has been throughout the last 2 weeks, there is no right or wrong answer to the questions that we ask, so long as they are your truthful opinion. And some of these questions will just be opinion questions. So if I try to make light of a situation or even entertain you, dare I say, a little bit this morning, it is not because I don't understand the gravity and nature of why we're here. It's just that I want you to be comfortable so I can get those truthful answers. Okay. So to start out, here I am saying I'm going to smile and maybe entertain you, and I'm going to start out asking you a very uncomfortable question. And most times, what I will do is I will start on the left-hand side and ask that you raise your paddle. And then once I call your number, because I am taking notes, you can put your paddle down, and then I'll go to the right-hand side and do the same thing. So my first question is for the left side of the panel, and this came up with some of you individually, but not all of you. Obviously, one of the offenses in this case is first-degree murder. I will tell you that on almost any first-degree murder or any murder that happens in Central Florida, autopsy is performed by a medical examiner, and in almost every homicide case that is presented, selected photographs from that autopsy are going to be admitted as evidence, and you're going to be asked to look at those photographs. The question is not whether you want to do that. I think we can all appreciate that no one wants to look at those photographs. My specific question on the left-hand side is, does anyone believe that they could not look at photographs of a somewhat graphic nature without getting physically or emotionally ill? If you think you could not do that because you're going to get physically ill or become so emotional you can't concentrate, on the left-hand side, could you raise your hand? All right, I see no hands raised. On the right-hand side, does anybody feel that that characterizes the way you would feel? I see no hands raised. All right. Second question is also a somewhat sensitive topic. So because there are 60 of you, if the topic or your answer to this question is sensitive in nature that you don't want to discuss it in front of everyone, please let me know that, and we may be able to take that and get your response in a more private circumstance. So my question is, and it's to the left-hand side first, have you or anyone close to you been the victim of a person's crime? And when I say person's crime, what I'm looking for is someone physically put their hands on you or your loved one, threatened you with a weapon, anything like that. I'm not talking about somebody broke into your car and stole some change out of the coin bin. Not that that's not serious, but that's not what I'm interested in. So the question on the left, you or someone close to you have been the victim of a person's crime. If you could raise your paddle. I see no hands. All right. On the right-hand side, you or someone close to you have been the victim of a person's crime. Okay. So I see a paddle from juror seat number 8. You can put your paddle down. Is that seat 11? Okay, seat 13. Thank you, ma'am. In the third row, seat 38. In the last row in the back, seat 54. Thank you, sir. Seat 56. And seat 60. Now, I'm aware that some of you brought this up to us during the individual process, and if you did, I will not ask you detailed questions about that. So I'm going to start. I'm just going to go numerically and start with juror in seat number 8. Ma'am, is that something that you can tell me about in front of other people, or would you rather do it in private?
I'd rather not talk about it. I did.
Ma'am, you need to use that microphone. I can't hear you. Sorry.
I'd rather not talk about it in front of people, but I talked to y'all about it
You
individually.
discussed it with us previously?
Mhm.
Yes, ma'am. Understood. Thank you very much for that response. Juror in seat number 11? Is that something you can tell us about?
In private, please.
In private? Yes, ma'am. Thank you. See, very easy to say that. Yes, yes, sir. Seat 13. Okay. Seat 38.
Does this include a verbal threat?
If I asked the question and it came in your mind, then yes, sir. So can you tell me about that, or would it be, you need to do it in private?
I was threatened to work, my work.
Yes, sir. By a coworker or someone else? Okay. How long ago did that occur?
Several years. 20-something.
Okay. Was the nature of the threat such that you informed law enforcement about it? Okay? So you never took a report, anything like that? All right. Anything about that situation and your being threatened that you think would prevent you from being a fair and impartial juror in this case? All right. Thank you, sir. Juror number in seat 54, you also raised your paddle. Is that something you can tell us about?
In private, but does it matter like if it was in a different country?
No, sir. If it affected you or someone close to you and you feel we need to know it, then that's something we'll discuss in private.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. I also saw a juror in seat 56.
Private as well, please.
Okay. And then juror in seat 59 is a new paddle number. You have your paddle up, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me about that, or do you need to discuss it in private?
Well, it was a workplace assault from a customer.
Okay.
And yes, it was over about 7 years ago.
Okay. Was law enforcement contacted?
Yes.
Was action taken against the person? Were they arrested? Do you know?
Well, at the time I said I would press charges, but everything I think just fell through the system because I get a letter in the end saying that I think time ran out or something, but nothing was ever done to my knowledge.
Okay. You said that you would press charges, or that you told someone that you would.
Right, when it happened,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
said, call 911, I want to press charges.
Right. Did police come out to your place of business?
They did.
And did you write a statement or something?
I did make a statement.
All right. Did you feel that law enforcement acted appropriately in that circumstance?
They did.
But then you said that the system...
Meaning that I was told that to call the state attorneys.
You can say it, it's okay. I won't take it personally. I don't think it was me, but...
And I had somewhat communication, and it just, I don't think nothing ever came of it, and then maybe like I kept asking about it, and then maybe later or so I received something saying that basically the time lapsed and nothing happened to my knowledge.
That was here in Orange County?
Yes.
Given that you wanted prosecution and that it did not occur for whatever reason, how did you feel about the fact that the ball was dropped? I'm going to be blunt about it.
I mean, I was just more so angry when the incident happened because it wasn't even directed towards me. I just happened to be the person sitting in the way, you know what I mean? So I was absolutely angry at that time. So much time had lapsed. I was dealing with other things that, I mean, it didn't really affect me that.
Okay. Anything about the fact that the state attorney's office dropped the ball that you're going to hold against Mr. Buxman or I?
Absolutely not.
Thank you very much. And I'll come back to you in a moment, ma'am. Juror in seat number 60, you raised your paddle. Is that something you can tell us about?
Sure. Mine was domestic in nature.
Okay. How long ago?
Probably about 20 years.
Was the person responsible arrested?
Yes, he was.
And was he held responsible by the court system?
Yes, he was.
Anything about that incident that you think would prevent you from being fair and impartial in this case?
No, I was happy with the outcome.
As a victim, you felt you were treated fairly?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. And then I also saw a belated paddle, which is just fine, from seat 30, because sometimes things don't pop in your mind right away and you hear other people talking about it. That's absolutely fine. And I'll get to you in just one moment, seat 43. Juror in seat 30, can you tell me about that?
Yeah, sorry. I was actually held at gunpoint like 11 years ago.
Okay, that definitely qualifies.
I just don't think about it. It's been so long. It was at a job. I used to work at a gas station, and it was a robbery. And it was reported. And I never followed up to see if the person was caught or not.
Was that here in Orange County?
It was in Seminole County.
In Seminole. You said law enforcement responded. Were you pleased with the way they conducted themselves?
Yeah.
Right. Anything about that obviously horrific experience that you think would prevent you from being fair and impartial in this case?
No.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. And now going back to seat 43, I believe. Is that something you can tell us about, or would you rather do it in private?
I can tell you about it. It was a sexual assault that happened. It's been 7 years now.
And were you the victim?
Yes.
Sorry to hear that, ma'am. Was it here in Orange County or somewhere else?
It was in Jacksonville.
Was the person responsible arrested?
No.
All right. Did you report it?
I did.
Anything about that experience that you think would prevent you from being fair and impartial in this case, which obviously does not involve those facts?
No.
Okay. Thank you for letting me know that, ma'am. Anybody else? Okay. Seat 2 down front, and I also see seat 52. Ma'am, I'll come to you in a moment. I'll start with seat 2.
Thank you. It was attempted armed robbery about 12 years ago.
Were you the victim, sir?
Yes, sir. Someone came into my house while I was sleeping and held me at knife point.
Were you the only person in the house at the time?
Yes, sir.
Did you report that to law enforcement?
Yes, sir.
Was the individual caught?
No, sir.
Were you satisfied with law enforcement's efforts to apprehend that person?
They did the best they could.
Okay. Anything about that experience that you think would prevent you from being fair and impartial in this case?
No, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for letting us know.
You're welcome.
And seat 52.
Oh, yes. I got my wallet stolen from me, like mugged, I guess, would be the right term.
Okay. How long ago, ma'am?
I think it was about 10 to 12 years ago.
And was that here in Orange County or somewhere else?
It was somewhere else.
Was the person apprehended?
Not that I know of.
Did you let law enforcement know what happened?
Yes.
Were you satisfied with their efforts?
Yes.
Anything about that experience that you think would prevent you from being fair and impartial in this case?
No.
Thank you, ma'am. Seat 42 also raised his paddle.
It's been about 3 years ago, 2, 3 years
Said
ago.
3? Said 3 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
I was asleep and I kept hearing the doorbell ring, so I thought it might be my brother or niece locked herself out. And about the time I got to my bedroom door, somebody kicked the front door in. But it only lasted about 3 seconds maybe. I barely did see him. I didn't have my glasses on, so I couldn't give a description when the sheriff came.
So was it your perception that when they saw someone was home, they left?
Yeah, he turned around and ran as soon as he...
Okay, and you mentioned the sheriff and a description, so you notified law enforcement?
Yeah, I notified law enforcement, but I couldn't give him a description because I didn't have on my glasses.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I could see there's a person, but
Anything about that experience that you think would prevent you from being fair and impartial in this case?
no, it only lasted a few seconds.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else that had a situation like those that have been described that think we need to know about at all? Okay, I see no hands. On the left-hand side now, the question is, and this is another one where if you don't want to talk about it, I understand, just let us know. You or someone close to you had been arrested or convicted of a crime that you know of the circumstances of. If you could raise your hand on the left. I see a couple of slow hands. All right, I'm gonna call out your paddles. I see 21, yes ma'am. 34, 49, and 36. Okay. Juror in seat number 21, is that something you can tell us about?
Yes, we did kind of speak about it individually.
And if you told me about it individually, then I have notes, and you don't need to tell me about it again.
Okay.
But thank you for letting me know.
Thank you. Right that way.
Seat 34.
Yeah, you said arrested of a crime?
Yes, sir.
Yep, college, couple different instances involving drinking.
Okay. So I'm assuming you're referring to yourself personally.
Sorry?
You personally?
Yep.
Okay. Anything about the way you were treated by law enforcement that you believed was unfair? You can say it was, it's okay.
There was, yeah.
Okay, tell me about that.
This was going back probably 19 years old, but we were at a house party drinking underage. They got busted, and I happened to kind of get thrown around. We were hiding, so I got thrown around a little bit and was accused of resisting arrest for hiding.
Okay.
So it wasn't the best experience.
Yes, sir. And if those of you who have answered this question already or heard me ask the question about whether you were treated fairly, you may understand why I'm asking, because as you can imagine, there are going to be law enforcement officers come in and testify as witnesses in this case. Let me ask one more question before I come back to you, sir. Does anybody here think that all law enforcement officers are good? Raise your hand. All right. Seat 32, you think all law enforcement officers are good?
The majority, yeah.
No, I said all.
All?
All.
Why not? Never mind.
Yeah, retract that. There we go. Does anybody here think that all law enforcement officers are bad? Raise your power nice and high. Nobody? Okay. So, law enforcement officers, in my experience, are like plumbers or anybody else who does their job. Some of them are really good at what they do, and some of them not so much. And some of them do outright unlawful things. And that is nothing to be ashamed of, and this conversation is not one that everybody needs to be on pins and needles about, because we recognize that, okay? But we need to know, is if something happened in your life that's going to color the way you view any certain situation. That's the reason I'm asking these questions and going one by one. So my question for you, you're in seat number 34. It's so much easier if I could use your names, but I'm not going to. I'll call you Mr. 34. Given that you were treated unfairly by law enforcement, what you say at face value, would you hold that against the law enforcement officer who testified in this case just because he or she was a law enforcement officer?
No.
All right. You think you could set aside that experience and fairly and impartially weigh their testimony?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Seat 36, 2 people over. Can you tell me about that experience?
Yes. It was my nephew. He was arrested for drugs in Texas.
Okay. What do you know about that circumstance?
I just know he went to jail for drug use. And he is currently out now, so.
Okay. Do you know enough to say whether he was treated fairly or not?
No, I do not.
Okay. Anything about your nephew having been arrested that you think would prevent you from being fair and impartial in this case?
No.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Seat 49. I'll come back to you. 32 just raised her paddle. Seat 49. Yes, ma'am.
My boyfriend?
Okay. Your boyfriend was arrested?
Yes.
All right. How long ago?
Many years, it was before he met me, so I don't know exactly how many years ago.
Did he tell you the details of that experience?
No.
Do you know enough about it to know whether he was treated fairly or not?
I guess he was treated fairly. He deserved it, so.
Okay. Anything about the fact that he had been arrested in the past that you think would prevent you from being a fair and impartial juror in this case?
No.
Thank you, ma'am. Seat 32 also raised her paddle. Yes, ma'am.
My significant other.
Okay. Do you know how long ago it was that that occurred?
That was before we met. And that's, well, we have been together 8 years now.
Okay. Has he shared or she shared the details with you about that?
All I know is involved robbing, he robbed a four-wheeler. A four-wheeler.
The allegation was that he stole a four-wheeler?
Yes.
Okay. Did he share with you whether he believed that he was treated fairly or not by law enforcement?
He told me that he has been treated fairly and not fairly, but he hasn't given me details. I just rather not ask.
Understood. Anything about your knowledge, your limited knowledge of that circumstance that you think would prevent you from being fair and impartial juror in this case?
No, absolutely not.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Seat 4, down front on the left still. Tell me about that, sir.
DUI,
You personally?
yes,
How long ago?
probably over 20 years ago.
Did you feel like law enforcement treated you fairly?
Yes,
Anything about that experience that you think would prevent you from being a fair and impartial juror in this case?
no.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else on the left-hand side? Seat 2. Yes, sir.
Also charged with DUI.
Okay, how long ago?
This was 15 years.
Here in Orange County or somewhere else?
No, it's Mississippi.
Mississippi. Really, because you have like a Boston accent.
Oh, yeah? Never got that one.
That was one of those jokes I was talking about.
Yeah.
Bad one at that. Anything about that experience that you think would prevent you from being a fair and impartial juror in this case, sir?
It used to, because it was not right. There's a lot of stuff behind it. I wasn't under the influence, but it was a small town, bunch of cowboys over there.
Yes, sir.
Things happened and I've let it go, so it won't cause any problems.
Thank you for your candor about that. Anybody who's driven through a small town in Mississippi knows what you're talking about. Anybody else on the left-hand side? On the right-hand side, I'll restate the question because it's been a while since I said the original question. You or someone close to you was arrested or convicted of a crime. And the reason I'm asking, hold on one moment. The reason I'm asking is to make sure we can ask you those questions about witnesses and the ability to gauge their credibility. So on the right-hand side, raise your paddles again, and when I call your number, you can put them down. Seat 8, seat 11, seat 12, seat 14, seat 23, seat 24, seat 28, seat 9. In the back row, I see seat 56, seat 57, and seat 58. Did I miss anybody for now on the right-hand side? Seat 13. Yes, sir. Thank you. Okay. It's okay. We'll go through it one by one. It's not a problem. Seat 8. Is that something you can tell me about, ma'am?
Yeah, my husband was arrested for DUI about 15 years ago.
Okay.
And my brother was arrested on drug charges some many, many years ago.
The second one was your brother?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Just for her, that's all. Thank you. Anything about your husband's arrest that you think he was not treated fairly or that he expressed to you he was not treated fairly?
No.
All right. What about your brother's situation? No. Is it your view, and if I'm wrong, tell me, is it your view that they were both treated fairly by law enforcement?
I wasn't there, so I don't know, but they didn't say to me anything like that.
But they didn't express negative treatment to you?
No.
Okay. Anything about those circumstances that you think would prevent you from being a fair and impartial juror in this case?
No.
Thank you, ma'am. Seat 11, actually seat 9 was the next person. Yes, sir.
My aunt served, when she passed away in federal prison.
Okay.
I was young, so I don't know anything about it except for we used to go visit her.
Okay.
And then both of my cousins were arrested, and one was for drug charge and one was for assault. I don't know anything more about that. That was on that side of the family that we didn't hang out with.
Okay. Anything about either your aunt's situation or the situation with your cousins that you think would prevent you from being a fair and impartial?
No, my aunt was grateful that it happened, believe it or not, so it changed her life, so.
For the good?
Nope, it was it was good. My cousins, I don't know the circumstances with them, I just know that's where they were, and Christmas time, we'd get a phone call when we were all sitting around having Christmas dinner.
Okay. Thank you, sir. The next number I have is seat 11. Yes, ma'am?
Yes, sir. It's pertaining to the situation that I talked about with you all in private.
I'm
But
sorry,
yes-
ma'am, I can't hear you.
Sorry, it was pertaining to the situation that I'll talk with you all in private about.
Yes, ma'am.
And yes, individual was arrested.
Okay.
To my knowledge, he was treated fairly.
Okay. And what we'll do, ma'am, is we'll just talk to you about all that when we speak to you in private. But thank you for notifying me about that. C12. Yes, ma'am.
You actually have all the notes from
You
my
discussed it?
individual.
Perfect. Thank you very much for letting me know. C14. I'm sorry, 13. 13 first. Go ahead, sir.
Mine's also pertaining to the previous matter.
Okay. Yes, sir. Now C14.
Yes. My mother, she was arrested for threatening someone with a weapon.
Okay. How long ago, sir?
This was about 15 or 16 years ago.
Was that here in Orange County?
Yes.
You'd have been at least a minor at that point.
Right, yes.
Did you witness the situation?
I did witness it, yes.
You did, okay. Did you feel like she was treated fairly?
Yes, she was treated fairly.
Anything about that situation that you think would prevent you from being a fair and impartial juror in this case?
No.
Thank you, sir, for letting me know. The next number that I have is 23.
We spoke briefly about my family.
We did, I remember that.
And I got a lot more on that, but I was also arrested. It was a dispute over a dog. I've never owned a registered dog before, and the girl I was with registered the dog in her name, and when we went to separate it, obviously I stopped her. I got arrested because it was registered to her. All charges were dropped. I also now have the dog, which cost me another $1,500 to pay her out, and $3,000 in vet visits for an 8-month-old puppy. So.
But you're not bitter about it at all.
No, the dog.
I'm just joking, sir.
The dog had some major issues. I'm glad I got her back, and I would do the 3 days in jail again any day of the week for the dog. So.
You're a better man than I. But
so
over a dog, I didn't know you had to register a dog either, or that you could do that.
Well, yeah. So I guess if it's a pure breed, you register it, and that registration is, like the officer said to me, it's just like a car registration. I said, I've got receipts for everything. The officer said, too bad, you're going to jail. Okay. Which I'm perfectly fine with that. I understand. And the outcome was perfectly fine. It was in Seminole County. All the officers treated me very well with respect.
Okay.
I just got to say, I heard from people in Seminole County Jail, it's so much better than Orange County Jail. So I guess I had the luxury resort. I'm not jaded by any sense. It won't affect my ability in this.
Okay.
Law enforcement did the right thing, so.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for letting me know. Well, yes, sir, C24.
I think we spoke about it, was with my brother. He was arrested in Pennsylvania.
We did. I remember now. Thank you. No problem. C28. Okay. You're going to have to do a whole lot better than C23.
It'll be a challenge.
Yes, sir.
But I believe the quote is, when I was young and reckless, I was young and reckless. This would date back to when I was 18, and me and a buddy decided it'd be really cool to have a couple of street signs as room decorations for college. Unfortunately, we were both total nerds and didn't know the first thing about how to do it correctly, and wound up getting pulled over by friends in St. Cloud at the time. So arrested, not convicted. Nothing about that experience will change any of my views on this case.
Because it's your fault for being a bad criminal.
I was a very bad criminal, yes.
Understood. Yes, sir. Thank you. Now seat 28. Then the next number I have was seat 56.
It's related to the other incident, so wait till private.
Yes, sir. We can discuss it then. Thank you. 57. You cut out there for a second, ma'am.
Testing? Okay.
Nope.
Try holding it to the side.
My husband's parents were arrested.
domestic violence charges.
Yes, sir. Yes,
But
ma'am.
it was like 20 years ago.
All right, and I'm just going to repeat that so that she can take it down. Your husband's, if I misstate it, tell me, your husband's parents were arrested for domestic violence about 20 years ago? Okay. Anything about your knowledge of that situation that you think would prevent you from being a fair and impartial juror in this case?
No.
Thank you, ma'am. Seat 58.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Okay. Yep, we're going to go with it's the mic since the both of you got it. Please repeat, sir.
Yeah, so there's two. One for myself. In 1998 or 99, I was arrested in Jacksonville for drunk and disorderly. I was treated fairly. There was no bad feelings about that. There's nothing that would impact my feelings now towards this case regarding that. The other is for my wife. She was arrested 2007 or 2008. She had, this was before we were married. She got addicted to painkillers. She got to the point in her addiction where she was selling painkillers to support her habit. She sold to an undercover officer, was arrested, charged. There's nothing with that she was treated fairly, as far as I know. I think in the long term it ended up helping her. She's been clean for over a decade now, so it turned out okay, and there's nothing in that for me that I would have any bad feelings or ill will towards
I understand. Thank you,
anything
sir.
regarding this.
All right. Anybody that I missed or for whom this conversation has sparked something in their memory? All right, I see no hands. Other than the people who have already discussed this topic because of the prior question, on the left-hand side, has anybody had a really bad experience with law enforcement? If you could raise your hand. All right, seat 32. And then I'm talking about anything like even a traffic stop where you were treated so rudely that you never thought about a traffic stop the same, by way of example. Yes, ma'am, seat 32. Can you tell me about that?
I will say this was like 10 years ago. I moved from Puerto Rico here finally, and I started a job which I misplaced my driver's license. So I was on my way back home, and I didn't know that when there was a police car with the lights on, that I have to move to the side and continue driving. So I just slow down and continue. Well, he stopped me, and because I didn't have my driver's license, he didn't believe that I was myself. I gave him my social security number, my birth certificate. He threw my birth certificate literally on my face, saying that it was in Spanish. And I was like, if you look very well, it's in Spanish and English, because from Puerto Rico, we speak both languages. And literally yelling, he called more police officers on me. I showed him my divorce papers, everything that I could show him, but he still, he gave me a citation. He took my car's license plate. He made me go to court. For me, it was a nightmare, because for me to prove that I was myself, I had to go to the Social Security office. I didn't have a formal ID to show other than my divorce papers and my birth certificate. They made me go to a place for me to do a physical, which they needed my driver's license.
Right.
But thankfully, they had records that I had been there before. But he did make my night a living hell that night.
Right.
I'm still not losing faith on law enforcement, but it was not a great experience for 3 weeks.
Right. I'm sorry to hear that, and it goes to what I was talking about, good and bad.
It's an experience. That's all I have to say.
And you alluded to it, but it sounds like it would not.
Oh, no, absolutely
case.
not.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. On the left-hand side, anybody else have an experience similar in nature or otherwise that you think we should know about? I see no hands. On the right-hand side, I see a reluctant paddle, seat 43.
This is pertaining to what had happened with my sexual assault. I had called police at the time after it had happened, and I was told that there was nothing that could be proven, so it was not worth it for me to put in a statement of any sort. It wasn't, I would say that like now, it's not something that would ever affect me in a case like this. But at the time, it wasn't something that I needed to hear. I know that it was just in like my best interest. They didn't want me to have to go through saying everything over and over again, but I think at the time it wasn't something that I needed to hear from a police officer.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Anybody else on that topic on the right-hand side? I see no hands. All right, this is going to sound silly, but I'm going to ask it nonetheless because it's Monday. On the left-hand side, raise your hand if you really hate working in a group. Does anybody just really despise working in a group? So in school, high school, college, even now as a professional, you know, if you have to do a group project and collaborate with other individuals, that kind of thing just rubs you the wrong way because there's always somebody who doesn't do their fair share of work or somebody who knows everything. Anybody feel that way on the left-hand side? On the right-hand side, everybody gets along with everybody all the time. That's amazing. There's a pal in the back, seat 57.
I mean, I feel bad because no one else raised their paddle, but I mean.
No, you're just being really candid, that's all. Go ahead.
I mean, it's just always in the situation where people, I've always had to pick up.
I'm sorry, ma'am, I can't hear you.
I'm so sorry. I've always had to pick up the slack and just don't really, kind of a control freak, which is a personal issue, but just don't enjoy it.
So you prefer not to work in groups for that reason. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Now that brave juror number 57 said something about her personality, does anybody feel the same way, even similar to juror seat 57? On the left, or had an experience? I see no hands. On the right? Okay. So let me go to juror in seat number 10, number 68. Yep. Out of the blue, I just called on you. Sorry about that. How do you feel about working in groups? Let me ask a first question. Have you had that experience before?
Yes.
How was it for you? Do you enjoy it? Would you rather work by yourself? Tell me your thought process on that.
For me, a group would offer more ideas and ways to think about things. So I kind of enjoy that.
Okay. Did everybody hear what juror in seat 10 said? No, I see you shaking your head. That just means I'm going to ask you how you feel about it. So somebody pass. One of the cardinal rules of jury selection is not to make eye contact with me or make a physical expression. Can we hand the mic to juror in seat number 21? Yes, ma'am.
Can you repeat the question?
I will. Sure thing. The question is, have you ever worked in a group setting where you had to accomplish a task or a goal? And if so, what are your thoughts about working in a group as opposed to working on your own?
For the most part of my adult life with work, I have to work in groups and multidisciplinary staffings. So I work really well in groups and independently.
Okay. What about next to you, juror in seat 22? Have you ever had that experience?
Sorry.
Why are you laughing?
Because you said not to make eye contact, and I wasn't looking, I just chosen.
Well, the other thing not to do is to try to avoid eye contact with me, because that'll happen too. Yes, ma'am. Have you ever worked in a group?
In school.
In school, okay. And I never guess a woman's age, so how long ago was that you did a group project in school?
18 years.
Okay. Did you enjoy the experience?
I do.
Would you rather
I like people.
You I'm sorry?
I like people.
You like people?
Yes.
All right, that puts you in the minority, just so you know. What is it that you like about group projects and working with people?
Actually coming together to get like science projects. Those were the best.
Okay. Why science?
Where we had to do like make little volcanoes or just
the lab projects.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Those were the best.
Right. So you have no problem, I take it, that you like people making group decisions and having that dynamic.
Correct.
Right. So I'll ask it a different way. Does anybody here, and we'll start on the left-hand side, just prefer to make decisions on their own? Not that you don't like group projects, but you'd rather just make your own decision without a lot of input from anybody else. If my wife was here, she'd raise her hand right now. I know that from experience. On the left, does anybody feel that way? Juror in seat 32 and 34? Of course you can explain. Seat 32 is who I'm about to speak to. Yes, ma'am.
I work with the group. I'm the lead agent in my group. Yes, I rather make my own decisions. However, I do listen.
Okay.
And I do have a wonderful group. I love working with my group. And whenever we don't come up with a decision, we always sit down, have our team meetings every week. We express ourselves. I listen, they listen to me, and we always come up with a decision at the end. But as a person, I don't think that nobody will disagree with saying I like to make my own decisions.
Oh, people can disagree with anything.
Well, it could be, but in my case, I would say both.
Okay. Seat 34, can you tell me about that, please?
Yeah, I think similar. I'd echo that. I think, I'm open. I work with a lot of groups. I'm open to a lot of perspectives. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to making certain sets of decisions, I really prefer, my own judgment. I like to make my own decisions.
All right. What about you, seat 1? Can we pass the microphone to seat 1? You just got called on because I don't want to forget you because you're in the front left. So I thought of you in a moment and I just said it.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Go ahead, sir.
I work in a group every day at work, so I'm very used to it. I don't mind making a group decision or a personal one.
Either way is fine for you?
Yes.
Okay. So if selected as a juror, we're going to switch topics now and get away from this group conversation. If selected as a juror in this case, you will receive an instruction that gives you some of the law about what the law is regarding a law enforcement officer's use of force. Okay? And I probably don't need to tell you all that an officer's use of force has been a major source of conversation in this country and many countries over the course of the last couple of years, which is why I'm bringing it up. Sometimes, and the judge will give you the instruction and the outlines of what the law says when this is appropriate, but sometimes law enforcement officers can use deadly force. By that, of course, I mean force that is either designed to or does bring about the death of another human being. So my question on the left-hand side is, does anybody on the left, if you could raise your power, if you believe that a law enforcement officer should never be permitted to use deadly force to make an arrest? Does anybody feel that way on the left-hand side? I see no hands, but I do see an exasperated look on the face of, now everybody's wondering if they look exasperated. Juror in seat number 5. Can you tell me what you think about the question I just asked?
I'm kind of up in the air.
Okay, tell me about that, please.
Well, force, to defend yourself or others, yeah, I would say using force to a point of death, yeah, I understand that. But to be reckless because of a, superiority over another person, no.
Okay.
I don't believe that.
Did everybody hear what juror in seat 5 just said? Raise your hand if you generally agree with juror in seat 5. Raise your paddle nice and high. All right? So, juror in seat 24? No, I'm sorry, not seat 24, seat 26. You didn't raise your paddle, was it just because, or can you tell me why you didn't raise your paddle?
Well, I guess it's a personal opinion that you have to look at every fact, every day. I mean, things change.
You okay, Judge? Yes, ma'am. You want me to pause? I'm going to pause just for a moment, okay? Yes, Your Honor.
Sorry. We're going to bring in a juror that was late and swear them in. It also gives me a moment to recover. I have allergies, and this just causes a tickle in my throat sometimes. I can't stop coughing. I don't want anybody to think I'm sick up here.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will answer truthfully all questions asked of you as a potential juror to help you God? Thank you.
All right, have a seat, sir. Mr. Williams, you may resume. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. So I'm sure those of you who watch Law & Order remember the episode where the judge had a coughing fit and we all had to stop? No? Okay. Juror seat 26, I believe you were telling me about your thoughts on law enforcement and the use of deadly force.
Well, my thoughts on deadly force is, again, you know, different facts. We're not there every day. I can't make a general consensus opinion one way or the other. That's why I didn't raise my paddle. I just can't say, yeah, yes or no.
Okay. What about juror in seat 41? Somebody pass him the microphone. What do you think about the use of deadly force by law enforcement?
It's situational.
Okay.
Sometimes it's required, sometimes it's not.
And next to you, seat 40?
I agree.
You
I
agree?
agree exactly with him. It's always situational.
Okay. So do I understand everyone here, and I'll start on the left-hand side, that there's no one who thinks that law enforcement should never be permitted to use deadly force? You think they should? Right. And that's my understanding. So that was a poor question. That was a poor question on my part. Raise your hand if you think on the left-hand side that law enforcement should never be permitted to use deadly force. On the left, I see no hands. On the right-hand side, does anybody feel that way? All right. Let me go back now to the left-hand side. Raise your hand if you believe that law enforcement uses deadly force too often. All right. So please keep your paddles up until I've had a chance to call your name, okay? Or your number, excuse me. That's seat 18, seat 34, seat 49, and seat 52. All right, can we pass the microphone to seat 18, please? Tell me about your thoughts on that, sir, please.
There's some countries, right, that officers don't actually have a gun.
Right.
But here in this country, people do not allowed to have a gun. But it seems like most of the aggressions against black men, and more often so we are killed by police officers. It could be a simple traffic stop and the guns are pulled out for no reason at all.
So you believe that law enforcement, generally speaking, in this country uses force, deadly force, too often?
Correct.
And do I further understand you to believe that that particularly pertains to minority individuals?
Yes.
Well, it's not rocket science for me to tell you that Mr. Loyd is a minority individual.
Correct.
So my simple question for you is, given your understandable feelings on that topic, do you think that you would be able to fairly and accurately listen to the evidence of any interaction that Mr. Loyd had with the officer in this case and apply the law as you understand it?
Most definitely, yes. I mean, once you put the facts in front of me, I could make a decision based on what's...
And to be fair, I asked you your opinion and you gave it to me, so that's fine. But thank you for doing this.
All right.
34, can you tell me how you feel about that?
No, I just think similar. I think my mind jumped to situations. There's always going to be a situation where, you look at it and you don't think it was required. Maybe somebody was running away or something like that.
Right.
So I think the media probably makes us jump to an instance where we remember, but I think universally, that, there is a time and a place where deadly force is required.
Okay, thank you, sir. I also, seat 49, also raised her paddle.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like, I feel some situations could have been resolved without having to get to that extent. But I also understand that their lives, if it's a life or death for them, that is they're put in that situation, then I feel that they can use it, but at the same time, I feel that in other instances, it has been used when it could have been resolved a different way.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. And seat 52.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that generally deadly force is used inappropriately, but there have been specific instances where I feel like it's been used inappropriately.
Right. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Same question now to the jurors on the right-hand side. Raise your paddle if you believe that deadly force is used by law enforcement too often. All right, and please keep them up until I call your number. So I'm going to go in numerical order. That's seat 8, seat 15, seat 24, seat 28, seat 43, seat 54, seat 57, and seat 60. Okay, and I do listen to everybody, so if your feelings are encapsulated by someone else's response, feel free to say that. We don't need to reinvent the wheel for everybody. But if you've got something original to say, please tell me. Seat 8, go ahead.
I kind of agree with the gentleman right here.
The gentleman
that spoke.
That would be seat 18, right? Is that you, sir?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I kind of think it happens a lot more with the minorities than it does,
Right.
any other situation.
Anything else you want to add?
No.
Okay, thank you. The next seat was 15. Go ahead and tell me how you feel about that.
Generally, I agree. I think there's too many instances of deadly force where it wasn't necessary. Not just necessary as a result, but just getting into that situation in the first place.
Okay, thank you, sir. Seat 28, no, I'm sorry, 24, and then 28.
So, if use of deadly force was too often is the question, and that's, for me, mostly it's in the form of seeing the instances where the person is either is running. I've seen more than I'd like where they they shoot at that person, which it really just elicits a response of it's not supposed to be catch or kill, you know what I mean? If they're running, I don't think that's, called for shooting, but I see that happen, and so because of that, if that happens at all, then it would be too much, if that makes sense. That's my personal, that's the biggest one.
Yes, sir?
Yeah.
Thank you. C28, if we could pass him the microphone. Yes, sir.
I believe that everyone's opinion that's been expressed here collectively is correct. It is situational, it's a fact-based circumstance, but that you have seen it used too often in certain circumstances, and the protocols need to be there to reduce its use, but not eliminate it.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Seat 43.
I'm the same way as every other juror. I feel like there are times where it's used too often, but it's also very situational. Depends on who's, if there's an officer's life at stake because of it, then yes, deadly force should be required. It should be allowed to be used, but not in all circumstances that we've seen on the rise. Do I feel like it was required for them to use?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I'll come back to you, seat 11. Thank you for letting me know. Can we pass the microphone to seat 56? Did you raise your paddle, sir?
No, I did not.
54.
54. I wrote it. I can't read my own writing. Sorry. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I have the same opinion, basically. I feel like overall in this country it's used too much, but there's also sometimes where it shouldn't be used, like if they need to defend themselves, or if the person they're trying to arrest also has like a deadly weapon and they have intent to use it, probably.
Okay. Thank you, sir. And seat 57?
I agree with the other jurors that have already spoken.
Okay. Seat 60?
In my opinion, I believe it's been happening the whole time. It's just that now with technology and camera phones, we get to see it so often that it looks like it's on a regular basis. And it's scary when you see it. But it's not only happening to adults, children as well.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. And seat 11 down front on my right, your left.
I just wanted to let you know that I agree with their sentiments as well.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else have an opinion on this topic that they want to share? Because you think it is relevant to the conversation. Right? I see no other hands. Okay. Now we're going to go to a slightly lighter topic after an hour of somewhat heavy conversation. On the left-hand side, raise your hand if you watch a crime scene television show with regularity. Lots of paddles, all right? Keep them up, nice and high. On the right-hand side, raise your hand if you watch a crime scene show with regularity. Okay, I see lots of people. I'm going to go to somebody I haven't spoken to yet. You can put them down. Thank you. Seat 3, down front, my left. How are you, sir? I'm good. That's 2 sirs in like a 5-second span, so well done. Which show is it that you watch?
And Law and Order.
ID and Law and Order, all right? I'm not familiar with ID. What's that about?
The TV channel.
Well, yeah, I mean...
There's various shows on there. The channel is nonstop.
It's a channel?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. And it's all types of crime shows? Wow, I didn't even know they had a whole channel now. I'll have to update my spiel here. Okay, so during C3, can you tell me, and everybody listen, because this is the interactive portion of the morning, because I'm not just talking to C3, I'm going to talk to others of you as we go through this. I want you falling asleep and then not knowing what he said. So C3, can you tell me some different types of evidence that you see on these crime scene shows? That's exactly what I mean. So video, first thing he said. What else? Testimony. Did everybody hear that? Is that a yes? All right. What else? Yeah, but what type of evidence? In what form? You talked about video, you talked about testimony? Okay, what kind of physical evidence? Skid marks? Yep. Fingerprints? Weapons? Weapons? All right, thank you, sir. So, juror in C, this is always the danger with an interactive show. Juror in C3 mentioned something that usually takes quite some time to get to. Does anybody hear what it was? Who said that? Nice and loud. That's a hand from not using your paddle. Seat 40, there you go. Seat 40 is the testimony. Right, so on the left-hand side, you all understand that in the state of Florida, and to my knowledge, in every court in this country, testimony is evidence. And yes? Yes. Please answer out loud, that way I know you're awake. On the right, does everybody understand that? Yes. Right. That becomes very important because television shows have conditioned our society to look for these things that Juror in C3 was talking about. Video evidence, DNA, fingerprints, and all of those are other types of evidence that are admissible regularly or admitted regularly in the court of law. But it's lost that testimony is evidence. And that's important because if you were listening closely when I read the list of witnesses, there are going to be more than one witness who comes into this courtroom, comes past this gate, and goes past you all as jurors sitting in the box, gets on the witness stand, and tells you what he or she saw. Right? Now, like all evidence, it is up to you to determine whether or not you believe what that person says. Now, we make these judgments every day, right, as people. Can anybody think of a circumstance, everyday occurrence, where you as an individual have to decide whether or not you believe somebody? Raise your paddle. That was a fast paddle. Holy smokes. Juror in seat 47. Let's pass him the microphone. Parenting. Okay, that's an easy one. We'll stick with that one. And actually, right behind that was seat 22. Were you going to say the same thing, or parenting? Right? So those of us with children who have had children in the past or one day want to have children, God help you. I didn't mean it that way. I meant just make sure you start saving now is what I was trying to say. Our children tell us their version of what happened in a given situation, and we have to look at the circumstances, read their body language, determine whether what they're saying makes sense, right? Well, that's your role with jurors. And in fact, the law that you will get from the judge at some point tells you that you can believe some, all, or none of the testimony of any witness. And it's the same thing with fingerprints and DNA. You'll hear from the people who do that if it's presented and decide whether or not they did their job correctly. Right? But it is important that everyone understand that while you determine its credibility, testimony is evidence. On the left-hand side, does anybody have a problem with the concept that a person testifying is evidence in the state of Florida? Raise your paddle on the left if you have a problem with that. I see no hands on the right-hand side. Sure. When I get excited, I start to talk fast, so I'll have to slow down. The question was, does anyone have a problem or an issue with the concept that testimony is in fact evidence in the state of Florida and can be relied upon by jurors? On the left, I see no hands, and on the right. What do you think, juror, just because, so now another rule is if I haven't talked to you yet, you need to be aware that I'm coming to you. Juror in seat number 35. Can we pass the microphone to seat 35, please? Tell me your thoughts about the concept of using testimony as evidence in a court of law.
Well, I would follow what the judge said about the testimony, and as a juror, my job is to, I guess, gauge the veracity of that evidence, whether it was believable or not, and possibly compare if this person made a statement and then there's what they say on the stand. Those are all, I mean, circumstances, I believe, that I would need to, I hate to say judge. Your Honor, I promise, I'm not trying to be the judge.
Right.
But that's what I think. I think as a juror, my job is to discern believability versus sort of believability or no believability.
Right. Yes, sir. Understood. Everybody hear what he had to say? Anybody disagree with that being your role? All right. Anybody think they'll have a problem with performing that role if selected as a juror for any reason? All right. Well, let me go to a slightly different question then. And again, try to speak to somebody I haven't, spoken to just yet. Let's see. Juror in seat 6. I'd like you to think of a situation where a witness testifies. Well, I need to back up. So I apologize, but listen to this part too, please. Every crime that is alleged in Florida, there are elements of that crime, okay? Which are specific facts that have to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt for a juror to find a person guilty of that crime. Make sense? Yes? Yes. Okay, so juror number in seat number 6, let's say a witness came in and testified as to all 3 elements of a specific crime. You listened to the witness's testimony, you accepted it, you believe that the person is telling the truth and that they had the opportunity to observe what they saw. You with me?
Yes.
All right? And what they said meets all 3 elements of the crime. Could you find a person guilty beyond a reasonable doubt based solely on the testimony of one witness? Assuming you believe them.
Yes. If there's one witness to listen to and there was the only witness, then yes. If there's other witnesses, I think that changes the question, the conversation, right?
It absolutely does. That's
Okay.
why I was so precise with the question that I asked. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Did
If
everybody
there's
hear
one
what,
witness, yes.
did everybody hear what juror in seat number 6 said?
Yes.
Right? Raise your hand on the left-hand side if you disagree with that. And in other words, even if you believe the testimony of this one witness, it would not be enough for you to find a person guilty beyond a reasonable doubt under any circumstances. All right? I see several hands. So please keep your paddles up until I call your number. I see number 32, 49, hesitant paddle from 34, all right? 49, 50, and 52. All right, so we'll stay on the left and then we'll go. So we could pass the microphone, that's the word I was looking for, to seat 32. So am I understanding that you could not find a person guilty beyond a reasonable doubt based solely on the testimony of one witness, even if you believe them?
There should be some kind of evidence too, because...
Well, hold on, let me stop you right there. Because we just spent about 5 minutes establishing that testimony is evidence.
The reason why I'm saying this is because there are people that are really good liars.
Right.
So evidence and testimonies has to be mixed. This is my personal opinion.
I understand, and I asked for your opinion, so I appreciate it. So, and I want to be clear. Are you saying that there are no circumstances under which you could find a person guilty beyond a reasonable doubt based upon the testimony of only one witness, even if you believe them?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Seat 34?
Yep.
You feel the same way?
Similar, I was thinking just any kind of evidence that that when a crime occurs, there's a person, there might be a vehicle, there might be a building, that any kind of general evidence, but it just seemed that there should be some other evidence. Like the person was actually in the state, for instance.
Well, let me ask you a question. Can you, and I'm gonna be very direct and blunt with my example, okay? Do you believe that child sexual abuse occurs?
Yes.
Right. Can you imagine a circumstance where a child would be a victim of sexual assault and no one would witness it other than the child?
Yes.
And can you imagine a circumstance where not only would they be the only witness, but there was no physical evidence left behind?
Yep.
Right. Do you believe we should prosecute child sexual abuse?
Yes.
Right. So, not to be fair, I asked you all the question and your opinion before I gave you that example.
Mm-hmm. But there would be other evidence, like,
No, you just told me that there were no circumstances, that there were circumstances where it would only be the child and there could be no physical evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, I can tell you that, but it's different for you to be able to process it and say, yes, for me, I could do that.
Mm-hmm.
So my question for you, seat 34, is, assuming you believe the witness, could you find a person guilty beyond a reasonable doubt based only on the testimony of one witness?
Yes, along with supporting facts like the person, the defendant was in the country or state, it would be evidence.
Okay, I see what you're getting at. Yes, sir.
There'd be other evidence that, supported the defense.
Okay. I also had a paddle from seat 49.
The same thing. It's going to be hard just for just one testimony if it's not also with other evidence involved.
Okay? Hard but not impossible.
Yes, super hard.
Super hard.
Because there's a truth, the other truth, and the real truth. So it's going to be hard, one word against another word, and then not backed up with something. You can believe them, but it will be like more convincing if you have facts proving what they're saying.
Yes, ma'am. All right, seat 50? It's not working.
Can't hear you.
Hello? There we go. Okay, great. Similarly, if not same, I think what's catching me is the beyond a reasonable doubt. And I think if it's one person and it's their perspective and they're sharing that, even if they believe it and I believe it, it would be very, very difficult to say beyond a reasonable doubt.
Difficult is different than impossible.
Yes.
So you're not saying it's impossible?
Not impossible, very difficult.
Yes, ma'am. Understood. Yeah. Thank you. And seat 52?
Similar to other jurors, if we're saying impossible, well, can you repeat it's messed up. Can you repeat the question specifically?
Yes, ma'am. Could you find a person guilty beyond a reasonable doubt based upon the testimony of only one witness, assuming you believe that witness's testimony and their testimony establishes all the elements of the crime? That's a long question.
So I think that there could be situations where I do believe someone, I do believe their testimony, but they may not have, it's their perspective. So there may be other pieces of the crime that.
You're good, keep going.
There may be other pieces of the crime that the witness, maybe they're not a full witness to the crime, maybe they're a partial, they only saw part of it.
Right, but in the hypothetical I gave you, they saw it all.
Oh, they saw it.
Yep, and you believe what they said.
Okay.
Are you okay in that circumstance? Could you do it?
Yeah, I could do it if they saw, well, it wouldn't be impossible. It would be, I think it's the other juror. It would be difficult. I don't know if it would be impossible, but.
Okay, understood. Moving now to the right-hand side. Raise your hand if you feel the same way that some of these jurors have expressed. Very difficult or impossible. All right, I see a hand from seat 14, seat 15, seat 55, and seat 57, and seat 38, and 54. Thank you, sir. Seat 14 has a microphone. Go ahead, sir.
I basically agree with what was said on the left side, that it'd be very difficult, just because of the fact that sometimes people see and experience things, it's not always equal, and for that reason it'd be difficult but not impossible. But I do agree that it'd be very difficult without any other evidence to kind of collaborate with the facts.
Okay, thank you, sir. Seat 15, right next to you.
I agree, difficult but not impossible.
Okay.
Rely on facts, and that was the only facts I had. It would be very difficult to do so.
Seat, I think 38 was the next number that I had in order. Yes, sir?
The typical standard is in the, under the law.
Your mic's not on, you have to figure it out. Well, it's on, but it's not registering. Nope, not yet.
Hello? Hello? Straight up front, yeah. Oh, now it turned on. Great.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. As far as I understand it, the biblical standard found in the Levitical and in Deuteronomy, the law, and then reverberated in the New Testament, is that someone should not be condemned unless there is evidence based on 2 to 3 witnesses. Therefore, my foundation is that. I don't say it's, I say difficult but not impossible as a result of additional evidence to support. Namely, just as one example, if there was one witness and then video footage just as an example.
Right.
To reaffirm the witness position. That would be a good example where I could. So I guess the short answer is difficult, but not impossible.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Seat 54?
Yeah, same thing. In the absence of any other evidence, it would be very difficult.
But not impossible.
Not impossible, no.
Yes, sir. 55?
Basically the same thing, difficult but not impossible.
All right, and seat 57?
I think for me, like, there would always be a shadow of a doubt, so I think for me it would be impossible if it's just one person's testimony and there's literally nothing else.
All right. So there will never come a time where anybody uses the word shadow of a doubt in this courtroom, in the law. I understand TV uses it all the time, but the standard that will be consistent as to our burden is beyond a reasonable doubt.
My apologies.
It's not your fault. You're not a lawyer, to my knowledge. So people use that phrase all the time, okay? But I understand what you were saying, so thank you. Okay, and we're actually moving rather quickly. I'm kind of almost done, all right? Let me talk to somebody else I haven't spoken to yet. Juror in seat 7, how are you, ma'am? Yep, let's give her the microphone.
Doing all right.
So at any time this morning, have you seen Mr. Buxman's feet?
No.
All right, you didn't see him in the parking garage or anything like that?
No.
He didn't cut you off in the...
No.
Okay, good deal. Because I warned him about that earlier. Have you ever heard the term circumstantial evidence?
I have.
What does circumstantial evidence mean to you?
That it's something that happens, whether it was present but can't necessarily be admitted as any of the other testimony, things like something, a weapon is lying on the side of the road, but it wasn't necessarily used. Nobody could testify that they had seen it in somebody's hand, things like that.
Okay, that's not bad. Let me try to hear from somebody else that I haven't spoken to. Seat 39. Have you heard the term circumstantial evidence?
Yes.
What does it mean to you, sir?
Evidence or something that can't be used against that person.
Ooh, okay, now we're getting warmer, right? The reason I ask this question is because the term circumstantial evidence has obtained a negative connotation over the years. And what it basically means to most people, like can't be used as one of the descriptions. True, right? There was an example given by juror in seat 7 about a gun that just sort of found by the side of the road. So let me give you all an example and go to someone else I haven't spoken to yet. Seat 44. Can we give the microphone to seat 44?
Hello.
Hello. Have you seen Mr. Buxman's feet this morning?
I assume that they're there, but I have not.
You have not. Okay. Is Mr. Buxman wearing shoes?
I wouldn't be able to tell you that without seeing his feet, I guess.
Can you speak up?
I said I wouldn't be able to tell you that without seeing his feet.
Do you think he's wearing shoes?
I would assume.
Okay, you would assume. All right. Why do you make that assumption?
Whenever he kicked the desk, it sounded like it had an echo.
That's a good one. Did everybody hear what she said? She said when he kicked the desk, it sounded like he might have had something on his feet, right? Can you think of
socks? Yes.
Can anyone else think of another reason, if you believe Mr. Buxman is wearing shoes, why he might be wearing shoes? Seat 23. You were the first one to raise your paddle.
Because there's a dress code in this courtroom.
There's a dress code, and downstairs, not just in this courtroom, but downstairs to come into the courthouse, it's sort of a no shoes, no shirt, no service kind of thing. Anybody else have a reason? Seat 19. We haven't heard from you yet, I don't believe. If you saw his feet, don't say that. Because sometimes people get tricky with me and they say, well, I saw his feet. No, go ahead.
I have not seen his feet.
Okay.
But I would think it would be logical for him to have on shoes with the outfit.
With the outfit, in other words, white feet don't go well with a dark suit.
With what I can see here.
With what you can see. Okay. So, anybody else have anything incredibly insightful on that topic. Seat 35. Yes, sir.
Well, if he has a wife or a significant other like me, she would never let me leave the house without shoes on.
A shoe check.
She would pull in my socks out and pick she picked what I wore today.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
I'm guessing its significant other wouldn't let him leave the house without shoes.
All right, well, we're not going to get into Mr. Buxman's personal life, but, so what you just heard was a good example of circumstantial evidence. You take facts that are observable and known, and from those facts, you infer another fact. So you all know that there's a dress code in the courtroom, that Mr. Buxman has a dark suit on. There was the noise from the desk when he shifted his seat. Those are facts that allow you to infer that Mr. Buxman is in fact wearing shoes, and that is what circumstantial evidence is, right? The reason I go through this long example is because unless there's a new device of which I am unaware of, there is no way to know exactly what a person is thinking in his or her mind when they do something. But in almost every criminal case in the state of Florida, the state has to prove a person's intent at the time they did something. And the way we do that is by presenting evidence of what they did, what they said, and how they acted. So, my question on the left-hand side is, does anybody think that they're going to have an issue using circumstantial evidence to identify a person's intent? If you could raise your paddle nice and high. I see no hands. On the right-hand side, does anybody think that's going to be an issue for you? What about you, juror in seat number 12? We haven't spoken to seat 12 yet.
What's the direct question?
The question was, do you think it will be a problem for you to use the concept of circumstantial evidence when determining what a person's intentions were?
No, I don't believe it would be a problem for myself at all.
Okay, understood. All right, I have one more question, but it's a multi-part question, so don't get excited, okay? And it involves me telling one of you a story and then asking all of you your response to it. So somebody I haven't talked to yet. Seat 16. She saw me, she knew I was coming to her right away. And she looks like she just got called down on The Price is Right. She's so excited. I'm excited because you're excited. How are you, ma'am?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm well. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a story, okay?
So excited.
I told you she was excited. So there's a woman who goes to work in the morning. She gets dressed in her house, suit on, walks out her front door. It's about 8:30 a.m. Turns around, locks the door behind her, walks out to her car, gets in her car, puts the keys in the ignition, starts it up. As she looks at her front door, or the front of her house, everything looks fine. Above her front door, there's a large window. The window is intact. She has her coffee in her little cup holder. She backs her mid-size sedan that we all drive in the suburbs out of the driveway, pulls off and goes to battle I-4 traffic. You with me?
Yes.
Everybody else hear what I'm saying? Yes? Yes? All right, good. She goes to work, works all day, has a group project while she's at work. Drives home, pulls into the driveway a few minutes after 5 o'clock. And as she pulls into the driveway, there are two young men standing in the driveway. One of them is Joey, and the other one is Chandler. Okay? A couple of people. Joey has a baseball bat in his left hand. Chandler has a baseball glove on his right hand. Right? She gets out of the car, looks up at her house, at her window, and it's broken. You with me?
I'm with you.
Juror number 16, what is it that you think happened?
I think Chandler threw the ball and Joey hit it and it smashed through her window.
All right, did everybody hear what juror number 16 just said? Yes. Okay. Raise your hand if you reached or your paddle, excuse me, if you reached a similar conclusion, nice and high. Keep them up. Okay. A lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people. All right, you can put them down. Thank you. So my next question for you, ma'am, is do you believe there's evidence at this point, beyond a reasonable doubt, that a ball belonging to Joey or Chandler broke the window?
No.
All right, thank you. On the left-hand side, raise your paddle if you believe, at this point on what you know, there is evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that a ball belonging to Joey or Chandler broke the window. I see no hands raised. Seat 33? Somebody pass him the microphone, please. But don't get comfortable, seat 16, I'm coming back to you. Yes, sir.
There's no evidence beyond a shadow of a doubt.
No, not a shadow, reasonable.
Reasonable.
Beyond a reasonable doubt, yes, sir.
So,
not, no for you, at this point.
right.
Understood.
Correct.
Okay, can we pass the microphone back to juror number 16? On the right-hand side, raise your hand if you believe at this point there is evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that a ball belonging to Joey or Chandler broke the window. I see no hands. Okay. So, seat 16.
Yes, sir.
The woman hears this. She goes up to Joey and Chandler and says, Joey, what happened to my window? And Joey says, Ross did it, right? And he points down the street. Ross is 3 years old, okay? So she dutifully walks down the street to talk to Ross, and Ross is riding his tricycle in the driveway. She stops him and says, Ross, did you break my window? Ross says, what window? Dutifully, she goes back to her house and across the street to the neighbor who lives across from her. Knock, knock on the neighbor's door. Says, neighbor, did you see what happened in my window? Neighbor comes out and says, you know, I came out around 4:30 in the afternoon to get my newspaper. I guess the neighbor sleeps late. And I saw Joey and Chandler pitching and catching and hitting a baseball in front of your house. Everything looked fine, so I went back inside. You with me?
Yes.
At this point, based upon what you've been told, do you believe there is evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that a ball belonging to Joey or Chandler broke the window?
No.
All right? Does anyone on the left-hand side disagree with juror in seat 16, and based upon what you know now, you believe there's evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that a ball belonging to Joey or Chandler broke the window? Raise it nice and high. See, I saw a paddle, and then it went down quickly. Somebody pass the microphone to seat 47.
That was mine, so I guess I went up and down.
Yes, sir.
I thought that it would depend on the, it would be circumstantial still,
Right, we
and
talked about
circumstantial
that.
is evidence, and there's the two of them with the ball. I don't know, you didn't say how old these are these neighborhood children?
Joey is 6 and Chandler is 7.
Oh, well, then we're heading in the right direction.
Okay, I'm glad you approve. But for you, is there evidence beyond a reasonable doubt right now?
No.
Okay, thank you, sir. On the right-hand side, does anybody believe there's evidence beyond a reasonable doubt at this point that a ball belonging to Joey or Chandler broke the window? Right, I see no hands. Does juror 16 have or seat 16 have the microphone back? Somebody pass it back to her, please. All right, so now the woman goes back to her driveway, and as she approaches the driveway, she notices that the window is not smashed out, but it's got a circular hole in it. All right? She opens up the front door, and looks inside, and there on the carpet is a white baseball with red stitching. At this point, juror in seat 16, do you believe there's evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that a ball belonging to Joey or Chandler broke the window?
Not belonging to them, so no.
Okay.
But there's evidence that a ball broke the window, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it belongs to them.
Right. So on the left, if you disagree, and in other words, if you believe at this point there is evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that a ball belonging to Joey or Chandler broke the window, raise your paddle. I see no hands. All right, what do you think? The juror next to you, juror in seat 17, can you pass her the microphone, please? We know it's on because she was using it, so.
I don't know if you can hear me now.
I can hear you just
Okay.
fine. Can you tell me what you're thinking?
I'm thinking, I agree with her.
Okay.
I think I need more
You need more.
information to
All right.
be able to make a decision.
Okay, fair enough. You keep the microphone now.
Oh,
All right?
great.
Back on the right-hand side, raise your hand if you believe at this point, there's evidence beyond a reasonable doubt, based upon what you've heard, that a ball belonging to Joey or Chandler broke the window. I see no hands or paddles. All right? Juror seat 17. Now the woman walks over to the baseball, picks it up, and as she does, there on the other side of the baseball, scribbled in pencil, is the word Joey. You with me?
Yes.
Right? Do you believe, juror in seat 17, that at this point there is evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that a ball belonging to Joey or Chandler broke the window?
Yes.
All right. Raise your hand on the left if you agree with seat 17 and at this point believe there's a ball belonging to Joey or Chandler broke the window. All right. Please keep your paddle up nice and high until I call your number. So that's 1,
Let me hear the question again.
6, 7, 16, 17, 18, 22, 35, 36. See, 2 is making me go backwards. 2, 37, 48, 49, 50, and 51. Same question on the right-hand side. Raise your paddle if you believe there's evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that a ball belonging to Joey or Chandler broke the window. I see 8. You can put it down when I call your number. 10, 12, 14, 15, 23, 24, 27, 28, 30, 42, 43, 44, 45, 53, 55, 58, and 60. Okay. Yes, sir. You've got a paddle.
Yes, sir. I don't want to raise it so you don't mark me down. I got a question. Actually.
Yes, sir.
All right. So
I'm sorry. That's seat 40 who's speaking.
yes.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay. So the question is, a ball has broken the window that belonged to these two individuals, not that they broke the window, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Let me say it slightly differently. It's a ball belonging to the individuals broke the window. Because the way you said it made it sound like the window belonged to them.
Oh, I got you.
But you're right. It's a ball belonging to them. I didn't say anything about them breaking the window.
So yeah, I got reason.
Okay. With a clarification, seat 40 raises his paddle. All right. Anybody else have any questions at this point? Okay. I see no other questions. So let's see. Seat 4. Can we pass the microphone to seat 4? Now, you have not raised your hand, right?
Sorry?
You have not raised your hand.
Correct.
On this question. So for you, there's a reasonable doubt about whether or not a ball belonging to Joey or Chandler broke the window. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay, tell me what your doubt is. Tell me about that.
The fact that the ball say Joey doesn't represent or doesn't establish the fact that the ball is labeled with Joey's name does not reflect or does not establish that that ball belongs to Joey.
Okay, what about next to you? Could you hand the microphone to seat 5? What do you think, sir? Okay. Anybody else who has not raised their paddle have a different answer or has a different thought in their mind? I see seat 54. Could we hand him the microphone, please? Go ahead, sir.
I mean, kind of the same, the similar opinion. I mean, it doesn't necessarily belong to him just because it has his name on it. I mean, someone else could have wrote his name and like to frame him possibly.
Right.
And
okay, so that's an affirmative response. We'll come back to that in just a moment. Seat 9. Can somebody pass him the microphone, please?
Is he the only kid named Joey in the neighborhood?
You're asking for facts that I have not given you, and that is not allowed. But I think what you're saying is there could be another kid named Joey.
Correct.
Okay, understood?
I mean, beyond that, I mean, just because they're standing there, his big brother could have taken it and thrown it.
Well, I didn't say who broke it. I just said a ball belonging to them.
Right, but does it belong to them? It just has his name on it, a name on it, Joe.
A name, Joey. Joey.
Joey.
Yes, sir. Okay. It's important because there's more Joes than Joeys when you're talking about younger people. I saw another hand or paddle. 21, did you raise your paddle? Can we hand her the microphone, please?
Yes, it was similar to the fact of just because the name Joey is on the ball, is it technically his ball? It could be Dad's name.
It could be. Right. So, and I'm going to go back to seat 54's statement. You don't need to hand the microphone. No more cock from seat 54. I'm just kidding.
Just a minute, Jack, can we approach? Sure. May I proceed, Mr. Williams?
Thank you, Your Honor. So I think where I was I was saying I was going to take seat 54's response. I believe if I misstated seat 54, you tell me, but somebody else could have wrote the name Joey on the wall, right? And sort of going along with seat 9, there could just be another random person named Joey in the neighborhood. Does everybody on the left agree that those are possibilities? Yes? All right. Seat 32? Hold on, wait for the microphone. Wait, that's okay.
What you're saying to an episode that happened to my own self when I was little with my brother. They were actually playing outside, kicking ball, that's what we used to call it. It was a ball, his name was on it, but he just went to a bathroom break. He went. There was no kids around, so he thought that one of the kids has his ball, so he didn't. Came back home, and there was this lady very mad at us, saying that my brother was the one who broke her window because the ball was inside of her house with his name and everything, and he actually didn't do nothing. It was one of his friends. So what you're explaining right now is like, oh my God, he's telling the exact story.
Right. But I take it he wasn't in front of the window when it was broken.
No, he went outside and he realized that all his friends, they were gone.
Right.
So he came back home thinking, okay, one of them keep the ball, they're going to give it to me later.
And these two young men stayed in front of the house. But I hear what you're saying, and that's really unlucky for me, but it's okay.
I'm sorry, that's why I'm not right.
No, it's okay, it's fine. So I think the last question that I asked was, did people on the left agree that it's possible that there's another Joey or somebody wrote Joey on the baseball? And I think I saw everyone agree. Is that right? On the right, do you all agree that that's possible? No. That was once again, seat 40 not using his paddle. Yes, sir. Tell me, you don't agree that that's possible?
No.
Tell me what you're thinking.
I think that the ball belongs to the two sitting in the front. He explained to the homeowner that the kid down the street threw it, but yet your ball is inside.
So you're pointing out that he gave a bogus explanation?
Absolutely.
I see. Okay. So for you, it's not possible. And now seat 5. So I should have started with Joey and Chandler because that's what it took to get you all talking, apparently. Yes, sir.
How old is Ross?
Ross is 3.
Oh, he's 3 and he's throwing the ball that far?
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. So, believe it or not, I'm done with questions about Joey and Chandler. But I use it to point out that the definition of a reasonable doubt under the law is not a possible doubt, an imaginative, forced, or speculative doubt. And what the law and the instruction says that if you have such a doubt, it should not cause you to render a verdict of not guilty, right? That's the whole purpose of a reasonable doubt. You all will make the determination of what is reasonable and what is not under the facts. But just because something is possible or could have happened is not a reasonable doubt under the law. Does that make sense? Anybody not understand that concept? All right, I see no other hands raised. Could I have a moment, Judge?
Yes.
told you I was almost done. Thank you all very much for your time and attention. That's all I have, Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. All right, folks, this seems like a good time to take an early lunch break. We're going to start back up again at probably 1:30, so get here at 1:15 so we can line you up. If the jurors in seats 11, 13, 54, and 56 would remain just for a few minutes, and then you'll be released to go to lunch. So don't talk about the case, including to each other. Don't look up anything. Don't look at any news reports. If you see the attorneys, they will not speak to you outside this courtroom. They're not being rude. They're under instructions not to have contact with you outside the courtroom. So they actually won't even say hello. Please don't hold that against them. They're under court order to do so. Y'all have a good lunch. 11, 13, 54, and 56, please remain in the courtroom. If we can I'm going to leave 11 in here. If you can put the other 3 in the jury room. So these are the ones that want to talk to me privately. Okay, thanks. Thank you. All right, ma'am, can you hear me? You wanted to talk to us privately in response to a question that was asked about both you being a victim of a crime and someone, either you or someone close to you, being arrested. Does she have a mic? All right, thanks.
Hey, yes.
All right, go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, it was domestic in nature. And without going into too much detail, it was a while ago, like 2014 through 17.
Okay. Were you the victim of the domestic incident?
Yeah.
And the person that was arrested was your spouse, your
Yes.
boyfriend, your spouse?
Yes.
Okay. Are you all still together?
No.
Okay. Is there anything about the way that was handled by the police that you felt they didn't do their jobs?
No, they did everything that they could.
Okay, what about, was the case prosecuted, ma'am?
It was, he did get arrested after the fact. Then I put him on a restraining order for a couple of years.
Okay. And did you feel like it was handled correctly by the prosecution?
Yes.
Right. Is there anything about that incident that left you with a bad feeling about the criminal system?
No.
All right. Would it
I've healed from that. It happened, and I'm stronger for it now.
Would it affect your ability to be fair and impartial in this case?
No.
All right. Mr. Williams, you wish to inquire?
No, you're right.
Ms. Miller, you wish to inquire? Thank you so much, ma'am. Enjoy your lunch.
Thank you.
Number 13, please. Seat 13, I mean. Just leave the paddle behind me. Yeah, thanks. All right, you wanted to talk to us privately about being a victim. You were a family member, and I believe you were a family member being involved in an arrest of some kind. Is that correct?
That's right.
All right, go ahead and tell me about that,
My
please.
partner assaulted me. It was domestic violence.
Okay.
Earlier, I spoke with you guys. I said he had PTSD. This was before he found out he had that. He then sought therapy. I think he was treated thoroughly. He was arrested for that. And I don't think it would affect my impartiality on this.
Are you all still together?
We are.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir. State, you have any questions?
No, Your Honor.
No, ma'am. All right, thank you, sir. Enjoy your lunch.
Thank you.
Juror in seat 54. All right, you indicated you needed to talk to us privately about an incident involving either you or a close family member being a victim. Is that correct?
Yeah, a close family member.
All right, can you go ahead and tell us about that, please?
Yeah, it was actually in another country. I have a tati who lives in Haiti. Oh, my bad, my auntie. My auntie.
So your auntie was in another country?
Yeah, she's actually she lives in Haiti. She was born and raised in Haiti. She was in Port-au-Prince, and her husband actually killed her.
So your auntie was murdered?
Yeah, by her husband.
Were you there when this happened?
No.
Was there anything about that incident that you think would affect your ability to be a juror in this case?
No, not at all.
Okay. State, you have any questions?
No, Your Honor.
Defense? All right, thank you, sir. You're free to go to lunch. We'll see you after lunch. Thank you. Juror in seat 56, please. Right, sir. You indicated you needed to talk to us privately about you or someone in your family being a victim or being involved in a criminal incident. What? Okay. How long ago was that?
So like 14 years ago.
Did one or both of your parents get arrested?
Yeah.
Okay. Are your parents still together?
Yes. She didn't press charges.
Anything about that incident that you think would affect your ability to be a juror in this case?
No, not that incident, no.
Is there some other incident that would affect you?
No, I'm just, you asked about circumstances. Nothing about my circumstances changed since Friday, but like, internally, like going back to work, missing a half day, you know, after 2 months, and I'm doing a sleep setup. I felt bad for my dad because he was visiting for China Bond, and I was like, just worrying all weekend, so.
So you're stressing about childcare, life, being here?
Yeah.
If you were picked for the jury, do you think you could do your job?
After classification, I don't know if I could.
Okay. State, you may inquire.
I don't have any questions, Your Honor.
Defense? Do you have any questions? All right, thank you. All right, thank you, sir. You can go to lunch. We'll see you after lunch. Thanks.
Thank you. Do I need my towel or?
Nope, you're good.
Not now. I'm not entertaining cause until the end. Okay? All right, folks, take an early lunch. Defense, you're up after lunch. I'm going to start at 1:30, so get here a little bit before that. All right? Thank you.
Recess.